Dr. Peter Wells, Director of Neftex Petroleum.
Back to Iran, they're selling a lot of their oil to China?
Yes. I mean, that's a pattern which is new. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, most of the oil was going to Japan, Korea, and Europe. Now China is probably more than 50–60% of Iran's oil exports go to China, which is a big change and is likely to increase because Japan has reduced its liftings from Iran.
Iran is getting further and further in bed with China when it comes to importing and exporting. Is there a concern there?
Should we be concerned?
Yes. Should the United States be concerned?
Yeah, I think from a strategic point of view, we should be concerned. We're allowing something to happen which might not be in our long-term interests. This is strategic oil supply for the world, and China's view on this, I think, as I understand it, is not that this goes into the liquid pool of globally traded oil, but the oil goes to China. I mean, it's a one-way thing. It doesn't go into the world market. So they're sequestering, if you like, future supplies of crude for China, dedicated to China. So it's a different way of operating the industry to the one we're used to.
Wouldn't we feel the same way if we were buying oil from Iran?
Well, the Western world doesn't trade oil like that. I mean, when Iran sells oil to a trader or to an oil company, the oil then may pass through several different hands before it arrives at a refiner, and then it'll be passing through another few hands before it gets to the consumer. And the Iranian oil isn't going from one place to another necessarily in a simple path. It gets onto a tanker and then it's taken somewhere, but other oil is arriving at the same time, and it's just traded in a completely open manner. Whereas if you're having a bilateral trade deal between one country and another saying, I'll come and give you this much financing if you sell me this oil for the next 20 years, this is a different arrangement. This is not the arrangement that the world runs its oil industry on.
How do you see that be affecting the world?
Well, what it does is it takes out increments of supply from the market. So if the Persian Gulf is exporting 15 million barrels a day and 5 million barrels are dedicated to China, that's 5 million barrels a day that are off the world market. So the cushion is then reduced. I mean, you're just losing spare capacity, if you like.
So we know that China is working on CTL, coal to liquid, and we know that they are trying to be independent of oil.
They would like to be, yes.
So are they making a strategic petroleum reserve by having this?
I don't think so. I think these bilateral deals are viewed more as they are considered to be sort of 80% secure because the people on the other side of this deal are very much dependent on Chinese largesse or Chinese technology or Chinese finance or whatever it is. So they're seeing it in a much more of a mercantile fashion in that case. But they're dedicating that crude for themselves. They're not actually allowing it to enter the world market. Of course, China, from a strategic point of view, would like to be energy independent. But its economy is growing too fast, its needs are too great. So it's looking for dedicated supplies of not just crude oil, but a whole range of commodities, which it can obtain from bilateral nation-to-nation deals. And oil from Iran is one of them. Oil from Iraq is another.
So Iran could sell their oil to anyone. Why make such a deal with China, especially when Iran has a different politics than China has?
Right. Iran needs money, and it needs technology, and it needs oil companies to do work in its country. It has a limited cadre of skilled people which are spread very thinly. So new oil fields, which they've discovered, have to be developed by external players. There are no external players apart from China who are willing to breach unofficial US sanctions on the financing of these projects. Iran cannot raise finance in international money markets anymore for refinery projects or for upstream projects. China is willing to provide the money and the people and the technology and then to lift the oil as well. So China is a one-stop solution. On a hierarchy of who they'd like to deal with, the Iranians have Americans, Europeans, and then Chinese. So they'd far rather deal with Shell, Exxon, BP, Total than they would with Chinese companies, but they don't have the option. We've closed off that option. The option is China or nothing.